Welcome to Witham Sounding Board, a podcast sharing powerful business tips, insights, and trends for those seeking to become a rock star in their industry.
We are back at it again for another edition of Hot Topics in the Multi-Employer World. I'm your host, Aaron Slaughter, and we have two guests with us today. Val, who's a partner here at Witham, has got more than 25 years of experience in software development and IT consulting. He also leads our Witham digital practice for workplace solutions and IT modernization projects. And more importantly, and why he's a guest today, he's our artificial intelligence guru. We also have Ashley Hall with us, who's a partner here at Witham. She specializes in compliance and operational matters within the multi-employer benefit plan and labor union space. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Aaron. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So we'll just go ahead and kick this thing off because there's no secret that there's been a lot of buzz about AI in the last 12 months or so. The good, the bad, and also the scary. So I thought we'd start today's episode by just spending a few minutes explaining some of the basics and really trying to demystify what AI is for our listeners out there. And I'm looking at you, Val.
So AI is actually a pretty loaded term. There's an alphabet soup of different acronyms that stand for things like neural networks and deep learning. It's a pretty hard explanation to give to folks who are not in that field. So I tend to describe it slightly differently. To me, AI is actually not any different than the software that we're all familiar with. We've been programming computers with over the past 30 or 40 years. And what really truly is different is that this time around, with artificial intelligence, we're able to program computers not by telling them exactly what to do step by step or instruction by instruction, but rather by showing the data. Right, the data, and maybe also describing what the data means or how it's supposed to be interpreted. And then the computer looks for patterns and basically constructs a kind of a model of the world, in quotes, that best fits that data. So we basically have gone from programming computers and again telling them what to do to just showing them examples and having them learn by themselves. That is truly a paradigm shift, and that is why everybody's so excited and scared about it. You could think about it again as software 3.0, the new way for us to program, and also as we are also learning right now to also interact with computers. We're now going from heavily keyboard and screen dependent inputs to, quite frankly, maybe just talking to them quite soon. You already see that today with some of the newer apps like the app from ChatGPT, where you're just able to maintain a dialogue. And that is pretty groundbreaking, pretty science fiction kind of experience the first time you experience it. That said, obviously AI is cool. It seems to be really gaining a lot of traction in the consumer space, but when it comes to the professional world, it also comes with a lot of concerns around things like job impacts and displacement of skilled professionals. We'll be talking about a little bit later on the podcast. The one thing to note here is, as humans, we tend to overestimate the impact, short-term impact of any technological change, and then also underestimate it in the long term. So I think that's where we'll try to dig in a little bit more and hopefully put the folks' mind at ease.
So when I think about a disruptor, and that's really what AI is in my mind, it's a disruptor. My brain automatically goes to job displacement. When I think about Uber and just what happened with the taxi industry and just how that shifted as a disruption. What are your thoughts on job displacement and what that's going to look like in our world, Ash?
Yeah, Aaron, that's a great question. There's no doubt that job displacement is a common concern when you start talking about AI and the impact in the workforce. But rather than seeing it as that threat or possibly a tool to be reducing headcount, particularly for our industry and fund offices, we really want to think of it as a tool that can augment productivity. It can increase job satisfaction, and it's going to do that by automating these tedious and repetitive tasks and really transform the nature of work in that way. Of course, it's going to change the nature and requirements of what we do, and it's going to require that employees are acquiring new skills and competencies to adapt to that. But the answer isn't to avoid AI under threat of job displacement. The answer is to get ahead of it, to start preparing your organization and your people for its impact. And leaders and management can do this by having honest and open discussions about AI and the true objectives of introducing it into the workplace. You can be equipping your organization for the necessary skills and tools that they need, provide that training that they need to upskill in order to be able to use AI. When you're adopting this positive and proactive mindset instead of an avoidance mentality, leaders are able in that context then to be able to inspire teams and employees to embrace AI. And in doing so, they're overcoming that threat of job displacement so that instead employees are finding themselves excelling in their careers.
Thanks, Ash. I think that answer was perfect. And when I think about disruption in just my life and my job, I'm absolutely trying to get better and more efficient with my teams and just what I'm doing. So it makes perfect sense to me. So this podcast is for the multi-employer world and labor unions. If I'm a trustee of a fund, or if I'm plan staff, or even if I'm a third-party administrator, what are some of the concrete examples that I can use AI to help make my life easier?
All right, Aaron. So from my end, it seems that one of the ways anyone can overcome the potential fear of AI being a disruptor is to actually learn what it is, and where it is potentially applicable to a business and its operations, and from there realize that much like any other tool, like a calculator, it's just an additional means of gaining business efficiency, right? And I'd like to share a few examples that folks can start experimenting with today. One thing to realize here is that AI is following a very different adoption curve that is not similar to how the rest of the enterprise technologies get adopted, which is typically from the top down, right? So imagine an organization buying a bunch of Xerox machines and deploying them on the floor for their employees to use, right? That would be that classical example. AI is getting adopted more like the mobile phones were being adopted in an enterprise from the bottoms up, right? So first it enjoys a significant consumer mind share, and folks are trying to bring that technology into enterprise to make additional value in their day. According to a latest survey from Microsoft and LinkedIn, about 70% of respondents actually responded positively on the point of using AI in their daily work. Also, more curiously, 78 said that they were not comfortable sharing with their bosses that they actually did so. So that creates a point of interest here for any business that's potentially concerned about the proper use and compliance with information policies that they have, because again, the employees are just loath to share this fact out of the fear that the use of AI will be restricted or taken away from them. So what can a business do? First of all, looking into a set of options that could be provided as legal and acceptable options to their employees, which currently include offerings from major commercial vendors like Microsoft with their Copilot offering, and Google with Gemini, or OpenAI with their OpenAI Enterprise, which are all comparably priced. That's the first bit. So evaluating any of those offerings will allow a business to provide a safe and acceptable option to their employees that are keen to bring AI into their daily work. One other thing that is now getting to be very real is some of the same offerings that I have just mentioned provide additional options around things like advanced analytics, which previously would require a very specialized set of skills to be hired at a business, and also specialized software. At this point in time, we're transitioning from basically needing how to do data science for answering some of the same questions around the trends, the patterns, the outliers that may be taking place, let's say, with things like claims redemption, to just being able to query the data that you have. Now, the one very important point here again is that you need to be doing so within the context of a selected and approved system that will not compromise your participant data. That said, just with respect to the actual human-computer interaction, we're going from needing to know how to write queries and do so in a very specialized way to just asking questions about the data that we have using natural language. Third, and a more involved option for folks specifically in the multi-employer benefit space would involve something like deploying chatbots, customer service chatbots that are now able to analyze plan documentation and answer participant questions, taking into account the specific plan covenants and then also participant information, hopefully providing a faster and more streamlined service.
Val, I had to admit that I absolutely have friends who have talked about using AI to respond to their superiors' emails and even just getting a starting point for talking to clients. So your bottom up point couldn't be more true. But here, as I sit and think about this, I think that listeners are in various stages of just level of desire of wanting to implement AI, from not interested at all and don't want to hear about it to I might want to see what the fuss is about, to people who are going to jump all in with both feet. Can you speak at all about just if you're someone who's interested in adoption of AI, what should you be doing right now?
Yeah, great question, Aaron. That's a big question with a lot of details and nuances behind it. So certainly can't really do that justice here in the next couple minutes, but I can give you something to think about. If we break it down into 3 parts, people, systems, and processes, I think maybe that might be the easiest way to start to think about how to prepare now, or start to take the next step. So from a people standpoint and preparing the people in your fund office, it would be just talking more with them about it. What is AI? What does it mean for them? How can they use it? What is their relationship with AI tools? So talking with them about it, training them training your employees how to write prompts for copilots, for example, or how to maximize the output that AI tools can bring, right? So just training them on skills related to AI tools, and then just encouraging them to explore it. So Val mentioned a couple ways that AI can be incorporated into a fund office. So looking to maybe pick one of those as a starting point and exploring it would be great, to just start to get everybody starting to use it and become familiar with it. So if that's people, then you move to systems, which is just making sure your infrastructure is prepared to integrate with these tools, right? So there's a lot that goes into infrastructure and systems, and I am not going to pretend to be a CTO, but for example, some things that would go in this topic would be, where is your data stored, and is it organized in a way to make interaction with AI tools effective? Just like we're looking to explore the uses of AI, so are the bad guys, right? And so the phishing attempts are going to become more sophisticated and harder to detect, and they're going to have new tools to try to break through defenses. So are your IT defenses up to date and take into account the new threats that we're aware of? doing cyber risk assessments periodically is always a recommended way, just to check in on the health of your infrastructure, just to make sure that your system is prepared for the integration of these tools, not only for them to be effective, but so that you can maintain the security of data, right? In fund offices, we're talking about PII and HIPAA compliance, and so making sure that participant data is properly handled and stored and used is a huge element that comes with making sure that AI is being used responsibly.
Absolutely.
The third part is processes, right? So if you're working with your people to upskill them, right, and become familiar with AI, and you're evaluating your systems and how to prepare for them, then the last part is really processes, looking to examine and adapt processes to use IT efficiently and safely. And then also developing policies, procedures, practices for how AI is used wisely and that protects that sensitive data. And remember, policies are only as good as the awareness and education and enforcement of them. So you would want to make sure once you've kind of thought through that you've shared that with everybody and are having a mechanism to make sure it's adhered to. But hopefully that just gives some ideas of the handful of things that come along with preparing and thinking through how to prepare fund office for AI. And hopefully there's something in there to help our listeners get started.
So we're coming up on time here today. Are there any other points that you think our listeners would want to hear about as far as artificial intelligence is concerned?
Well, there's one point I'd like to come back to, which was the impact of AI on jobs, just to be clear about the current capabilities of most of these AI-enabled technologies today. They're not at a point where they're readily able to replace one whole job of an individual unless the job is fairly routine, right? Jobs today are comprised of multiple tasks that folks perform, multiple hats that they wear. And what systems like ChatGPT are good at performing individual tasks, not whole jobs, right? So when businesses think about deploying AI at an enterprise, the real goal to shoot for is finding your 5 and 10 and 20, 30 minute type savings and efficiencies this way, because that's what allowing your employees to be more productive as they go through their day, and then finding creative uses for the time that has freed up. Again, some of the firms out there will approach this matter with a zero-sum kind of a mentality, along the lines of, if we're saving 10% or we're 10% more efficient, that means 10% less headcount. But in reality, the teams that will thrive will be the ones that will use the benefits afforded by AI and the productivity to make their folks enjoy their work more, and as a result, be more productive. I think that's an important point to understand when it comes to concern about, is AI going to be able to significantly impact our jobs? Thank you.
Wonderful. So we've certainly talked about a lot of different things on AI today. I would like to thank you all for joining us. If you are more curious about artificial intelligence, Witham actually has an artificial intelligence page on our website. You can just go to Google and type in Witham AI, and it will direct you there. The International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans also is a great tool and a great resource if you're looking for information on AI. For all of our listeners out there, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. See you next time for more hot topics in the multi-employer world. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you'll be first in line to hear what's coming next. Don't want to wait for our next episode? Check us out at witham.com. That's WITHUM.com.